News of the day, a little bit later than normal. Well, a little bit later than I'd intended for it to be today, anyways. Um, so I want to start off by saying that Eric Stahl will miss tonight's game. There's been a death in the family for him, so all the best to him. And, there's no real easy way to deal with that kind of thing. And, so thoughts out to him, and condolences on his loss. So segueing into the news of the day, broken hand last night for James Van Riemsdyk for the Flyers. Now the Flyers have dealt with injuries. Of course, famously, Lindblom is out for the year. And so they've been dealing with players missing out of their lineup, and they've done very well. So now without Van Riemsdyk, this is on a guy like Farabee to jump in and show, yep, I can play a top six role as needed. And so we'll see how the Flyers do starting pretty much right away tonight, right? Thomas Tatar for the Montreal Canadiens is flying home for reevaluation, upper body injury that he suffered on Tuesday, and so they're going to take a look at him and see if he's going to need extra time or whatnot. But for Montreal, a team that's playing out the string, that's probably it. I don't know who steps in and performs for in Tatar's spot. I don't think it'll be Kotkaniemi. Kotkaniemi was kind of called out by Bergevin for it sounds like for not having that work ethic game to game and maybe having issues with learning on the fly. And so Kotkaniemi's kind of, he gets microphone stuck in his face and answering it and going, well, I'm doing my best. And basically points out that in the American League, they actually teach you the game as you're doing this. And in the NHL, you're just sort of thrown to the wolves. And this is why when we see a guy who's 19, 20 years of age and they get sent to the American League and people go, that's it, he's a bust. That's not how it works. Some players are able to just be thrown right onto NHL ice and they survive and they thrive with it and they love that. And some players, it's such a different world from what they know and they're still learning the game. So the AHL is a perfectly fine way to learn to play the game. And there are some very good players who have started out their careers in the AHL. And I know there's Hall of Fame players who've played games in the AHL. It's not a bad thing. So for Montreal, we'll see what happens with them without Tatar in their lineup tonight. For the Rangers, 4 to 6 weeks is the timeline for Kreider. So we knew he was out with his broken foot. Now we know it'll be 4 to 6 weeks, according to the general manager, which takes you to the end of the season. We're 30 days from the end of the season, so there's not much time left, and he pretty much is done for the season. So if they make the playoffs, he should be back for those, but if they don't, he's done for the year. But the good news for Rangers fans is Shesterkin was spotted at practice today. He's considered day-to-day, not activated, and this is where things get tricky. You hear guys at practice and you go, yay, he's back. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Means they're close, doesn't necessarily mean that they're back 100%. So Shesterkin's at practice. I wouldn't expect him to be out much longer. And once he's good to go, the Rangers are going to throw him right back in there. They need every single win they can get, and Shesterkin's won 9 out of 10 decisions so far in his young NHL career. So the Rangers, some bad news, some good news there as well. On the Detroit side of things, so they interview Kyle Dubas. Pierre LeBrun interviews him, talks to him about what they didn't get done at the deadline, which was the blue line. Dubas's answer is basically that there wasn't any way to fix the blue line at the deadline, that there's long-term issues with the blue line. Now, the interesting thing to me about this is, and people are going to point this out, and rightly so, that they've been basically locking down their forwards to big money for as much term as they can get them to sign for. And it did look like they didn't pay as much attention to the blue line. That the defense, we're going to get all these guys dealt with, and then we're going to figure it out. And now we're at the figure it out part. And the interesting thing for me is that you've got a salary cap that may very well go up, which would help teams like Toronto and Vancouver that are having some salary issues. But if the salary cap doesn't go up that much, that's still going to be a problem. And for Toronto, long-term needs, well, they need to win a championship in the short term because they've got all of these young kids that are playing well, and they need to have a team formed around them that's capable of winning a championship. We point our fingers at Pittsburgh and Chicago and say, well, look, see, they did it. They rebuilt and they had all these young guys. Yes, and they also had veterans. They had leaders. They had glue guys that kept that locker room in check and were able to shepherd the kids along. And I don't know that I see that with Toronto as much. And definitely their blue line is an issue. And yeah, don't worry about the long term, because the short term, it's still a problem as well. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. On to New Jersey news. Out for the season with thumb surgery is Will Butcher. So they will be missing him from the blue line for the remainder of the season. And I know his name's not on the board, but it's not the entire Devils roster being out with thumb surgery, which would be interesting enough if the entire New Jersey Devils team said, we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's just all break our thumbs. Done. We will break our thumbs. We will all then go drinking because our thumbs will be in much pain. And we can just go have some beer and maybe take a vacation. So yeah, the New Jersey Devils will be without Butcher for the remainder of the season. Noteworthy out of Dallas is that Alex Radulov, who I've been vocal about how I'm not happy with the season he's had overall, he's gone without a goal in 12 games. Radulov's been kind of invisible for large portions of games. Now, it feels like he's not taking as many careless penalties as he was early in the season, but still, he's not scoring. So I would be very surprised if Alex Radulov is still a member of the Dallas Stars next season. I get a feeling that out of that core, that while they're disappointed in the overall totals for Ben and Sagan and Radulov, I think Radulov's going to be the guy who finds himself somewhere else next year. And whether that's still in the National Hockey League or not, that remains to be seen. But it has been a down year for him. So Ottawa. So Jim Little came out and he kind of defended himself. Because the way that the Senators put it in their statement was that he had conducted himself in an unbecoming manner, which of course led us to go, so was it gambling then? Was he out drinking? Are we looking at a situation where he's got some kind of an issue in his personal life that needs to be fixed, and that's why the Senators are jettisoning him? According to him, the only thing he can think of, and again, this is the only thing he can think of, because basically they just fired him, is that he swore at Eugene Melnyk over the phone. Now, it's not as simple as just swearing. Apparently, he was quite upset. Now, if you read between the lines, and if you look at the evidence we have to support it, Eugene Melnyk comes in and apparently has some kind of a testy exchange with Erik Karlsson, suggesting that maybe Karlsson thought he was better than the rest of the Senators, yada, yada, yada. And Karlsson hadn't talked to Eugene Melnyk for almost a year before they traded him. So, for a hands-on owner not to have talked to one of the star players for about a year, that reveals there's probably not a relationship there at all. Probably keep him away from me, and done. When the Senators are going through this rebuild, Dorian wasn't really the public face of it as much as Melnyk. Melnyk going, yep, we're going to have a Stanley Cup in this city in about 3 to 5 years' time. We're going to be competitive. It's going to be the greatest Senators team you've ever seen, which is weird. It's so bizarre. So we're going through all of this, and it feels like Melnyk is micromanaging. Now, apparently, and again, this is what the grapevine is saying, that as soon as he's offering $5 beers and he's offering to drop the costs of things in the building, and he's offering to, we can have ticket giveaways, and we got to do what we got to do to get these fans to come back. And all of these items that Jim Little was looking at bringing in to bring the fans back to the arena, they're costing Melnyk money. So Melnyk's probably looking at how much money it's costing him to have a CEO. He's looking at the money this guy's giving away in terms of dropping the price of things at concessions, and he's gonna give away free tickets. Where do I make the money in that? So Melnyk, who really likes money, because owners generally like money, not happy with the way Little was conducting himself, and hey, knock it off, because he does micromanage. And I think this is going to make it difficult for any CEO who comes in to run things for Ottawa. He wants to be in control of everything. So I think that while it's, yes, you're my CEO and you report to me, and if you're going to do something, you're going to do a press conference, you might want me there for that. It feels like that's what it is. And this is why, I mean, I've made the joke before that at the draft table, if they have the first and second overall picks for Ottawa, I expect Melnyk to be the first one on the stage with a big smile on his face. I wouldn't be surprised if he announced the picks. And it can be problematic. We've seen it in all sports where when you have an owner who is hands-on to that extent, it can hurt a franchise. It can cause players as free agents to say, okay, I have a choice between Ottawa or Buffalo. Okay, well, both owners may very well have issues publicly, but I feel like the Pagulas don't have their hands in everything as much as Melnyk. I'll sign in Buffalo for the same money I'd sign in Ottawa. I'm just using that as an example. So that's where we're going to win a cup. We're going to be the greatest team ever. We're going to be awesome in about 3 to 5 years. That's where when Melnyk says that, I'm thinking, well, yeah, but you need those veterans too. You can't just trade out all these guys, and you can't just have a bunch of guys who are older but not necessarily top end talents, and you need to replace them with, I'm talking about Toronto. You need to have those guys to shepherd the kids along. One of the things that I think Boston's done well enough over the last, I'll say decade and a half, is they make sure that those veterans are always there, and they make sure everybody buys into what the team is doing and the structure of the team and the team concept. And I don't know, with Ottawa, it feels like it's the Melnyk show, and that's an issue. That's absolutely an issue. And so don't swear at him, apparently. But it goes further than that. I think Little was basically telling him, I've got this. Why don't you go away? I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm trying to get the fans back into your arena. I'm trying to get the fans in Ottawa to pay attention again. And Melnyk going, well, that's fine, but don't cost me any money, which is not how it's going to work. You're not going to get people to come in without giving them some kind of a reason to come in. It's sort of like, come on in, shop at my store where everything's just as expensive as it was last week. Do you have a sale? I'm not going to have a sale. I'm not losing money so you can come in here. It's just that's not how business works. You've got to have an incentive. It's sort of like when a team isn't playing well and they announce a ticket price hike. You're like, that's probably not a good idea. I heard that about Buffalo potentially. So again, the Buffalo-Ottawa comparisons there. But you've got to watch it, because it's a lot of what makes a team successful is PR. Look at Aquilini in Vancouver. If this team misses the playoffs and there's a perception that Aquilini has maybe messed everything up by micromanaging, whether he does or he doesn't, perception is huge in sports. So, that being said, the last item on the board, potentially good news for Tampa, in that McDonough is close to return. He's supposed to travel with the team, and he's supposed to be close to a return to the team, which would be big. The Tampa Bay Lightning have lost a lot of games over the last couple of weeks, and you have to think injuries are playing a role in that. And so getting McDonough back could be huge for them. So we'll see, because again, Tampa went out at the deadline and picked up Bogosian because they needed help on the blue line. And I would think that getting McDonough back would be huge. He plays a lot of minutes. It would take a lot of pressure off of guys who may not be top 4, might be more comfortable being top 6 rather than top 4. And so we'll see what happens there. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Without you guys supporting the channel's not here. That's kind of how that works. And thank you guys for that. I will talk to you again soon.